Okay, actually recording my lecture in advance this time. Ooh. And once again, I have my notes up on my computer, which is over here. So if you see me like looking over here, it's just because I don't want to like miss anything. So this week, the foundational concept that we are trying to integrate into our mind is the vital substances of the body, right? So when you do a traditional Chinese medicine treatment, whether that is shiatsu, acupressure, acupuncture, some form of herbalism, whatever, the vital substances are the things that you are manipulating. The vital substances are the things that you are strengthening yin or yang in. They are the things that you are, decreasing the excess of. If they are blocked, you get them moving. If they are sluggish, you strengthen them. If they are rushing, then you calm them and root them down. So the vital substances are the things that you're actually interacting with and treating when you are doing a treatment in the traditional Chinese medicine model. So, before we can really understand vital substances and the way they interact, we have to look at universal qi, right? Now, the West has been interacting with China and traditional Chinese medicine and translating things for quite some time now. And so when you look at this concept, if you guys are, diving down the rabbit hole and doing extra reading outside of the handouts, they're going to call this a couple of things. Your Tappan's Handbook calls it Big Qi. Some translations call it like ether, or let's see, what did I say? I have some other examples in the handout. Just read the handout. But like you'll see this concept be called different things. In your handout, there's a symbol there, and that is the symbol of universal qi. And I'm going to go with universal qi because I think it just provides more clarity as to like what we're getting at here. The symbol, the Chinese calligraphy symbol for universal qi is a combination of two different symbols. There's like a top side part that is the symbol for air, specifically like steam. And there is the bottom part that is the symbol for uncooked rice. And when they put these together to mean universal qi, what they are trying to get at is that this universal qi makes up all things. It is the substance from which everything in creation is made, whether that is a very solid physical substance like uncooked rice or rock or whatever, or a very like ethereal substance or less physical substance like steam or air particularly. And the reason that the idea of steam is there is because, again, it can transform itself as it goes through the universe, right? Just like the steam is the way they see that is like the steam is like the when you cook the rice, the uncooked rice lets go of part of itself to become air, and that's why you smell the rice, which is kind of technically true, but anyway. So what they're trying to get across there, again, is qi makes up all things, from solid things to immaterial things, and it can change from one state to the other. So these days, particle physics, agrees that you can break all of matter down into its component energy parts. So they're kind of getting at the same thing there. But as we start to talk about the qi of the body, they're referring to something a little bit more specific. So all the vital substances of the body, just like everything in the universe, are a manifestation of universal qi. But there is also a vital substance that we call qi that does things within you that we're going to talk about in a second. So before we talk about that, we can kind of, I think, maybe bring even more clarity by talking about the basic principles of universal qi, which are it condenses or disperses. And again, yes, this is yin and yang within the universe, condensing qi and dispersing qi. So when qi gets cold or sits still, it condenses down, it becomes more solid. And when it warms up or disperses more, it becomes more immaterial, basically, is the gist. And what that means is that things that we in the West think of as, like, there's mind things, emotional things, and then there's body things, like physical things. We have that division in our thinking, but that is not the case with traditional Chinese medicine model. I mean, imagine if you thought of steam, liquid, water, and this is tea, obviously, not just water, but you get it, and ice as three completely different substances, right? Then dealing with them and talking about transforming one into the other might be confusing. But if you look at universal qi, you know, the analogy is if you look at universal qi and you see that it's all kind of the same, just in a spectrum in terms of its state, then that's how some of our treatment goals kind of become more clear as we're going along here. I hope that made sense. I think maybe you should read the handout also. But in any case. So yeah, mind, body as one. And this is how they explain things like getting hangry, right? If your mind and your body were completely separate, then getting hungry would not affect your thinking process, but it does. And so there you have it. Also, brief disclaimer here that we're about to start talking about, just bringing it in a little bit, about organs and the way they see organs of the body. And there are also the meridians of the body. The meridian system are named after organs in English, but that's not how they're named in the original Chinese. So in the original Chinese, they would have a word that describes like the function more, like uplifting or digesting or transforming. And the whole meridian and energy system they were talking about would be labeled the transforming system or the nourishing system or whatever. And it would encompass many different things. But here in the West, we translate it as the stomach meridian, the liver meridian, the kidney meridian. And I just wanted to throw out there real quick that we are not specifically talking, if I say the kidneys or the heart, we're not specifically talking about your actual physical organ. That is a translation issue. So be aware of that and don't let it confuse you too much. Okay, so let's dive in. Hopefully that has given you some foundation to stand upon. Let's dive into vital substances. The first vital substance that we're going to talk about is the Jing. And the Jing is like your essence, right? Your vitality, your healthfulness, your thrivingness is your Jing. And it is divided, it is seen as like in three different forms. So your pre-heaven essence is determined in your personal makeup at conception. So when the energies of the mother and the energies of the father combine, that creates your Jing, like your mother's Jing and your father's Jing combine to create your Jing. And this will determine your growth and development, right? So obviously, in the Western correlation, the most obvious thing it's like is your DNA, right? So that, there you go. The only difference is that unlike the Western concept of DNA, the TCM concept of Jing is that because Jing is like a vital substance that is flowing through your body in your essence, you know, flowing through you, it can be used up. And it is also specifically correlated to like your health, right? So someone, for example, who experienced malnourishment, I guess I'll get into specific examples in a little bit, but basically, like, you can use up your Jing by living a hard lifestyle, by, you know, not having healthy food, by not getting enough sleep, by not having clean air, by not, you know, maybe using hard drugs. Jing can be depleted. So it's not the same as your DNA, but it is obviously where they placed that concept that obviously you inherit things from your parents, you know. So that is your pre-heaven essence. Now the next part is, so pre-heaven essence, and then there's post-heaven essence. Your post-heaven essence is basically the vitality that you get from eating food and breathing air. And so one, like, if the qi is still in the apple, then they call it food qi. But once you eat it and you have like fully digested it and it has become part of you and your energy, now they call it post-heaven essence, once it's yours and absorbed and you being used by you, but it's energy you got from food. So it is noted as being like Jing because it keeps you alive in the long run after birth. If you do not eat, you die. So clearly it's, you know, that's like essence. You need it to live. And so yeah, that's the post-heaven essence. So we have pre-heaven essence and post-heaven essence. And these two in the body, now they come from different sources, so they have their own names. But when they merge together into like your general Jing, then it is referred to as your kidney essence. Translation, I know it's terrible. I'm sorry, I didn't do it. But it's referred to in like if you're reading about traditional Chinese medicine and they talk about your kidney essence, that's what they're talking about, the mesh and the balance from your pre-heaven essence and your post-heaven essence. So there you go. Therefore, kidney essence and the health of your kidney, meridian, organ, system in the body is seen as so precious because it's the foundation of your health and your whole existence, right? And some of these correlations can make sense from an observational standpoint. You know, they did not have microscopes. They are just looking at people. And so, you know, you might be short due to genetics, or if you had a period of malnutrition as a child, that can also stunt your growth and make you short. You can have infertility that is inherited from your parents, you know, genetically. Maybe your family just has a tough time getting pregnant. Or you know, people with anorexia also, it affects their fertility. So you see that this is kind of where it's coming from, that you can have your what you are given and what you do with your lifestyle merge together to create your vitality and development and health in life. And this is kind of the TCM nature versus nurture situation, you know, because, and like I said, if you remember from when I did the history video, the beginnings of this form of health and wellness model really marked the beginning of understanding that our lifestyle and our personal choices can have a huge impact on our well-being and health throughout our lives. So this is kind of where you start to see that. So again, I want to hammer this just a little bit more. Your Jing is a vital substance in your body. It is considered your foundational essence. And it is also, some say that the essence that you have like a set amount of. Some say you have a completely set amount of it. And these are the people who say, these are the same type of people who in the West would say the genetics is king. If you are prone to a family with heart problems, that's just the way it is and there's nothing you can do about it. It's in your genes, right? And then other people would say, no, you actually can influence your Jing a great deal through your lifestyle. And those would be the people who in the Western model are like, yes, maybe you're predisposed, but you can totally influence your health and your quality of life by making specific choices throughout your lifestyle, right? So this is, again, that nature versus nurture argument. And when it comes to Jing stuff, either way though, they do both agree, even the people who are more like it's a set amount, they do agree that it's a precious thing and you need to protect it by making deliberate choices not to wear yourself down or expend too much of your Jing. Fun fact I included in the handout, that also includes not having too much sex, because the Jing, your personal Jing is expelled to merge with your partners to therefore create life. So if you do too much of that, you won't have any left. Again, no microscopes were involved in the formation of this theory. Take it as you will. All right, so that's Jing, right? The next vital substance is bodily qi. Now, this is like qi with a little q, you might call it, as opposed to like big universal qi. And you might see this spelled C-H-I or Q-I, depending on who translated it. Now, the bodily substance of qi is the force that accomplishes all functional activity in your body. So, for example, if your stomach qi is weak, you might have a tough time digesting things. If your lung qi is weak, you might easily become out of breath, right? So the functional power of all the activities of your body are accomplished from the vital substance of qi, bodily qi. So I'm going to talk about a couple that you can subdivide qi endlessly, because every little bit of you has its own little flavor of qi to get its job done. But I'm going to focus on some that are considered to be like a little bit more notable, and then I want to take a moment to recap and compare and contrast Jing with qi. So first there's original qi. And original qi is like your deep functional well of yin and yang to accomplish things in your body, whether that is accomplishing sleep or meditation or contemplation or accomplishing a marathon. Your original qi is the deep well that then specializes as it moves out into all the other meridians and parts of your body. So yeah, Next is Zong Qi. I'm not gonna lie, like a lot of these I have included or used the Western translation, but the Western translation of this one I feel is misleading. So I'm just gonna go with Zong Qi. Your Zong Qi is like the energy of your chest that powers your heart and lungs. So someone with heart palpitations, someone who has a trouble with asthma or taking a full deep breath or something like that, that's your Zong Qi. It powers your chest, right? The next one is Nutritive Qi. This nourishes your internal organs and is closely linked with the blood. So it kind of says that your nutritive Qi is like flows through your blood vessels as well as through your energy meridians. And typically speaking, if you go and get an acupuncture session, your nutritive Qi is usually what they are actually accessing and fiddling with. And then the last one that I want to point out is your defensive Qi, which I think I already called by its proper name in an earlier handout or video. That's your Wei Qi. So the Wei Qi, that's the stuff that flows more towards the surface of the body, like just under the skin, and it circulates between the skin and the muscles to defend you from illness. And so it's like the function of lymph. It would be like your lymphatic Qi, basically. I could go on longer about Qi, and if you dive down the rabbit hole, you can find a lot about Qi. But again, putting it back out there, traditional Chinese medicine is vast and deep and nuanced. And there's a lot of information out there in the world that has been translated by many different people. And I would hate for you to like miss a question on your test or something, or get a unnecessarily lower grade in the class just because the details kind of surrounded and misled you. So for the purposes of the test, if you want to dive off the diving board after this class is done, you knock yourself right out. It's cool stuff. But again, for the purposes of this test, I would really recommend that you stay focused on the material that I give you, not because it's the only important material, but just because I want you to pass this class. This class is supposed to be fun. So again, let's recap. The difference between Zheng and Qi, especially that original Qi, right? That deep well of yin and yang. So your Jing, your essence, is like a lifelong thing. And their view is like when you get old and you're just tired, kind of. Even if you're healthy, you don't have the energy of like a 4-year-old who's just bouncing off the walls. That's because your Jing has been depleted through life, and it's just part of living. Versus your Qi, which can get depleted, but can also be replenished, right? So your Qi grows out of your Jing, and your Qi is more like the name for the force that accomplishes the functional activities of your body, right? So I hope that made sense. Okay, let's move on. The next vital substance is Shen. And Shen, it seems like it's always translated as spirit, but I disagree with that, because spirit in the West often means like your soul. And that's not what they mean when they say Shen. The Shen is the most immaterial of the vital substances, right? The least condensed, the most dispersed, least material of the vital substances. And it gives us like consciousness as human beings. When the vital substance of Shen is clear, balanced, flowing in a healthy way, we can think clearly, we are integrated and connected to our feelings and our emotions. We can perceive the present moment well. We can sleep well. We're just clear-minded, but also like connected to our intuition. That's what it means to have balanced, healthy, free-flowing Shen, right? So mind isn't perfect, but spirit is also not perfect, right? That's what they mean when they say Shen. Now, if your Shen were to be suddenly disturbed or suddenly like depleted and tank out, you would lose consciousness. And also, if you don't sleep for a long time, your Shen can kind of get depleted and you can eventually fall asleep, thereby losing consciousness. Or you might become slow of thought, like if you've ever been really tired and you're like, normally this makes sense to me, but right now I'm just so tired, I can't even, you've depleted your Shen, right? So if your Shen is sluggish, or it's weak, or it's blocked, or it's disturbed, you are going to be maybe irrational, maybe angry and vindictive, maybe slow of thought and like groggy, maybe not in touch with your emotions, or not in touch with your intuition. Maybe you're not able to fall asleep or to stay asleep if your Shen isn't rooted. So the symptom would kind of depend on the way in which your Shen was unbalanced, I hope that is clear. So that's what they mean by the vital substance of Shen. It's the immaterial, coherent, cohesive presence that keeps us in a state of clarity with our mind, our emotions, and the present moment, and also lets you sleep or not, depending on if you are in balance or not. So there you go, that is Shen. So now let's talk about blood. It's pretty obvious to anyone who has ever dealt with a human body in peace or in war that blood is an important vital substance of the body. In the traditional Chinese medicine model, blood is seen as the vital substance which nourishes the organs and muscles and meridians of the body. The main thing that's added, so yeah, it's your blood, like it's your actual blood is what they're talking about. This is not a translation, it's just blood. The only thing that's like added onto that is this understanding of this mind-body connection where they are inseparable, right? So blood can be nourished or depleted, just like any other vital substance other than Jing, arguably. But most notably, I guess I didn't say this, it's in your handout though. So remember we were talking about the Shen for a hot second there? the Shen, the mind and consciousness. So the Shen is seen as being housed in your heart, not in your head. So your Shen is housed in your heart, and when you are connected to your heart, then you think clearly and you're connected to your emotions, and you can sleep well and not be irrational or a murderer or whatever. So now the heart also governs the blood. The heart governs the blood is a traditional Chinese medicine, TCM thing, which makes sense, right? Because the heart pumps the blood physically around our body. So the blood kind of like anchors the mind in this model, which is kind of like their way of noting that, like, if you're malnourished, you won't be able to think clearly, basically. And because your mind will like lack its foundation. So there you go. The blood also has its own whole relationship with every organ and meridian in the body, obviously. But that's the only one that I'm going to focus on because I think it's the most direct and it makes sense. So, yeah. All right. And then last one, the Jin Yi, or fluids of the body. And this is specifically fluids that you get from drinking water and eating food, right? So in TCM, when you drink water or get fluids from something that you ingest, eat, your body separates the fluids into the pure, which it goes into your blood and is integrated with yourself, and the impure, which becomes the urine. Now, obviously, these days we have microscopes and more advanced medical technology, so we are aware that the fluids are absorbed into your whole body, and then the waste is filtered out by your kidneys and becomes urine. But they did not have those tools in ancient times. So you would drink fluids, and the thought is that the impure would be separated and discarded while the pure was used to make like your blood and your tears and your sweat and your saliva and stuff. So there you go. That's the gist. So I just want to end, I want to knock over my thing. I just want to end with a note about the 3 treasures. Obviously, all of the vital substances are vital, but blood and the fluids from your food are seen as like more superficial or like less serious if something happens, because you know, if you get hungry and you can't think well, you can eat and then you feel better. You know, it's a pretty straightforward and simple solution. Obviously, there are things that can become more advanced than that, but they're seen as being like easier to handle. But the other substances, the 3 treasures of your vital substances, the Jing, the Qi, and the Shen, they have to do with like who you are. They're the foundation of your whole being, physically as well as like psycho-emotionally. And they determine the foundation of all of your growth, of your ability to live your best life, of your ability to express yourself and to be in balance and well through your life. And so these are seen as like the Jing, the Qi, and the Shen are seen as the 3 treasures of your vital substances. And so pretty much all of the preventative lifestyle things that traditional Chinese medicine recommends have to do with preserving them, not depleting them too quickly, because they can be difficult to replenish. And if you if you disturb your Shen, that can have serious consequences to your relationships and your choices and the path of your whole life. If you greatly disrupt your Qi, your body won't be able to function well, and eventually that will disrupt your Jing. And if you disrupt or deplete your Jing, you can have serious foundational health problems. So everything, all the silly random things like don't walk barefoot on cold grass, that has to do with preserving, like just trying so hard not to deplete the 3 treasures. So we're going to continue to build and grow as we go through these modules. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you at least grasped that universal Qi manifests in ourselves just like it manifests in the whole universe, and that it makes up the very solid things in our bodies as well as the very immaterial things like your mind and your emotions. that those are not seen as separate. They are integrated with, they're inseparable. They're the same thing. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, oh well, leave your comment in the discussion board, and I will see you next time. Thanks, guys.